Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we are on the fields of Prague playing as the forces of the Vampire Counts against the forces of the Empire. And for this battle I wanted to revisit a older strat I messed around with before, and that is Isabella von Karstein plus Banshees. I wanted to see if we could get better results and maybe mix things up. I really wanted to try to, well, bring some counterplay to any abilities Empire might bring to shut down your ethereals and see what we can get done. So going over the build here, Isabella von Karstein. She's not a very popular lord choice. She doesn't have the greatest utility, but she has one thing going for her, and that is the Blood Chalice of Bathory. Now this has a very long cooldown, but it does restore 2500 HP on a targeted lord or a hero, as well as restoring 36% of their vigor. So if we look at Banshees here, that actually can literally heal a Banshee from 1 HP to max HP. It is a insanely, technically, obviously with heal caps and all that, you can't actually heal for that much, but you can literally max out a heal cap with that. Plus, you do regain vigor, which is not bad. Besides that, she does have Master Beguilement, much like Laddie Daddy, which gets you minus 40 melee attack on a specific target, which will hopefully help some of my peripheral troops here, especially the Blood Knights and Dire Pack, perform better if they have to face some cavalry. Or perhaps help if I have to fight an enemy lord or hero with these Banshees and Isabella. And besides that, Isabella does have the Red Fury, which grants extra AP damage and charge bonus and vigor. This was on the beta patch, so I actually do get the bonus to AP damage here, where if you're playing on the live patch currently, you do not get that, so it probably isn't necessarily worth it. Though 18% vigor on a specific target isn't bad. That can help you, like Blood Knights, Terrorgeists, whatever. It applies to any unit, so it's actually pretty strong there. Besides that, for spells, we've got Invocation of the Heck, we've got Van Hell's Dance Macabre, the Gates of Nagash, which is actually insanely powerful against characters if overcast. So I was hoping that if my opponent brought, for example, a Fire Mage, I'd be able to two-shot him, essentially. Then we do have Raise Dead, which allows you to resurrect or to raise zombies on top of targets, of course. It's nifty. It's nifty to interrupt cav fighting. It's nifty to shut down enemy backlines, whatever the case may be. Two Banshees on the ground. One of them does have the Wailing Banner. The other one is, both of them are rocking the Slippery, so they're going to be pretty tanky. Obviously, Empire doesn't have the best tools usually to really do magic damage. They've got a lot of spelled power, but they've only got a handful of units that do magic damage. Actually, we're seeing some of those on the field here, including the Hammer of Witches. Of course, magic missiles like Marcus Wolfheart's abilities, the Amber Bow, as well as Focus Shot, both do magic damage, I believe. And Silver Bullets, for example. But besides that, you don't have too many magic tools. Lore of Fire, of course, Flaming Sword, Ruin, Oaken's Mind Razor, that sort of thing. But otherwise, Banshees are pretty beefy, and they're pretty mobile too. You've got 60 speed, so they can kind of flex around and support a cav mob. Besides that, front line is some Graveguard as well as Skeleton Spears. They're just pushing forward. Graveguard, of course, crushes Empire State troops. Does pretty well against everything up to Greatswords. Skeleton Spears just bog stuff down and provide some protection for the Blood Knights. They can act as a bit of a buffer. Finally, we do have some Karen Wraiths, a single unit of them looking to act as a bit of extra terror, a little bit of extra AP, and a sort of additional bit of ethereal damage. Just something to mess with my opponent more. So just something to make it more difficult for him to prioritize targets. Besides that, two flanks, Blood Knights on each alongside a Direwolf unit. One of those is the Dire Pack. This is a nice anti-large contingent. This will beat down on Demigryphs, especially if you've got the support of Raise Dead. You just do have to be very careful about any of your opponent's heals or any of your opponent's infantry that might screen there. Now for my opponent here, he has gone with a very, actually missile-focused build, strangely enough. He's got Marcus Wolfheart here, who's already popping shots at the Banshee. You can see chipping her down. I said chipping her down, but chunking her down really by about 700 HP there. He, of course, has his Hunter Snare and Ember Bow and Focus Shot, so a lot of damage there. Several units of Spearmen, including Spearmen with Shields for most part. Though actually all of them are Spearmen with Shields, but multiple units of Spearmen with Shields. Sigmar Suns here anchoring things in the center. A very powerful infantry line for just holding, and they will provide good support against my large. Two Empire Knights. These guys are great for backline cleanup. They can be thrown in to crush zombies very, very quickly, where normally zombies take a little while to kill, especially for something like spears. Some great cannons, some Hammer of Witches, who can, of course, are a huge threat to my heroes as well as my Blood Knights especially, so gotta be careful there. And then a Demi-Mob here in the back, supported by Lore of Life Wizard, who's got Regrowth, Earthblood, as well as Shield of Thorns, and a Power Stone. And Life Bloom for that extra map-wide healing. It's not the most powerful healing, but it does get you a little bit of HP, and if you cast several spells, it's nifty. Now over here, we did hit poor Marcus Wolfheart with an Overcast Gaze of Nagash, and Izzy is coming in for the kill, looking to smack him down a little bit. But my opponent is going to use his Hunter Snare here, snaring her in place. She, of course, doesn't have a shield, so she's going to be taking those shots from him, and it's definitely not the most fun she's had. But over here in the meantime, Bloodshot Bathory is going to heal this Banshee back up to full. Slippery being popped there because I was trying to close the gap on Wolfheart. Not able to pull it off, and the Sneaky Hunter is able to squeak away. In the meantime, the cavalry contingent is sweeping around the flanks, and my opponent is kind of preoccupied. His artillery is shooting at the Banshees, and something like a Hammer of Witches can do a lot of damage to a unit of Banshees, for sure. But, and as you can see there, they get chunked for a huge amount. But it does mean that it's not focusing my Blood Knights. And that means the Blood Knights over here do get a beautiful charge on the Empire Knights. And the Demigryphs are getting kind of screwed over by the zombie summon. Some of them get blocked completely. Unfortunately, the Royal of Griffites do pile through. But not before the Empire Knights have lost about half their HP and a third of their number, though. Now the Blood Knights are going to have to run. Over in the meantime, Direwolves trying to find their way around. These Blood Knights also trying to flank around. Isabella diving in for the jugular, going after Wolfheart. They're taking pot shots constantly as the Banshees sweep in from the flank, looking to get this side attack. Now, Earthblood does go down, healing Wolfheart a bit, but the Banshees are applying some steady pressure, and they're actually very powerful against Demigryphs. They do not have high splash damage. And due to that, when they're hitting something like a unit of Demigryphs, you can see they're actually chipping down a model with every hit there, which is pretty bonkers if you think about it. So if they hit, look at that, already 3 models down Demigryphs. There's only 24 models on unit of Demigryphs. So if your Banshees are hitting like that, your opponent isn't going to have a lot of Demigryphs for long. And so the Banshees, they're doing some immense work, sort of like a Vargulf, but they don't have the splash of a Vargulf, really. So they're actually even better against Demigryph unit. Wolfheart, they're trying to chip away, but not doing too much. Unfortunately, the Blood Knights just getting absolutely hammered by the Hammer of Witches. At this stage of the game, I really should have tried to get Isabella off the ground at all costs, but she's getting a bit bogged down there. And just try to get a summon in on this cannon, but I don't do that. I actually send the Direwolves in, kind of waffling there instead of committing them one way or another. And that bit of a slip up there is going to cost me a lot because these Blood Knights have now been bled down to less than half models. So well played to my opponent, terribly played to me, and yeah, this cannon's gotten way too much value. Dire Pack, though, did get on the Hammer of Witches, but is not really able to surround it or shut it down. The Dire Pack is getting torn to shreds by the Spearmen. Blood Knights, in the meantime, getting bogged down on Empire Knights, which is really annoying, so I'm trying to sweep them around. One of the things to keep in mind is when you're fighting Empire Knights, they don't have good stats, and they will lose pretty hard to Blood Knights, but they take forever to kill. That 110 armor against a non-AP cav unit like Blood Knights is really a killer. Now over here, Isabella is near dead, but we do get the Gaze of Nagash into the back of Wolfheart there, chipping him down by a good 1,000 or so HP, and now the Hunter is becoming the hunted. Isabella is swooping in for the kill. He does fire off a final shot, but we've actually got our Chalice of Bathory going down on us, healing us for 2,500 HP, and Wolfheart is just getting chunked. Isabella is having none of this. She is sick of his crap, and she is riding him down on her Hellsteed, and he's running as fast as he can, and is actually going to shatter here. That is a big win for us. Unfortunately, Blood Knights here getting overwhelmed, double Demigryphs, as well as the Royal Dwarf Griffites, or sorry, as well as Knights, bogging these guys down, overwhelming them, and there's no real support there. But the Jade Wizards are gone too. My opponent's leadership core is demolished, and that's going to be a problem, because yes, he's going to win the cav fight. These Blood Knights are not going to survive. I do pop an Invocation Neck on these guys, trying to keep them in a fight for a little bit longer. But they're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to recover. They're going to be dead. Same with these Blood Knights over here. They're on their last legs, 10 models there. But we do have these Demigryphs now in the bag because they can't fight those Banshees. Those Banshees with their little prison shanks are doing insane damage. We can hear the Empire cav there screaming death to the enemy as they're getting shanked by Banshees. They're straight up not having a good time. Every Demigryph that goes down there, my opponent doesn't have healing to begin with, but even if he did have healing, he wouldn't be able to recover that. So these guys are just getting ground into the muck there by those Shanks, losing model after model, and it's actually going to tear out these guys because, of course, they don't have the greatest leadership, and with the Wailing Banner and Lord Loss, they don't hold out too well. So things are now looking pretty good. You can see balance of power is in my favor. The only thing my opponent really has going for him right now is the Hammer of Witches and kind of the Demigryphs. If he could kill off Isabella, or especially the Banshees with the Hammer of Witches, this game may yet be savable, because then if the Banshees are gone, then the Demigryphs can kind of cycle charge the Karen Wraiths, probably dispatch Isabella, and they might have a chance. There's still a good core of infantry there, Sigmar Sons, all that, but Banshees going in for the jugular here, focusing very hard on the Demigryphs. My opponent, realizing just how much of a threat these ladies are, is actually trying to escape, but you can see the cannon there whiffing and causing some friendly fire. And of course, I do still have Isabella's Chalice in the bag, so I could potentially still get some heals. You can see the Banshee there swooping in from the rear. That Knight, it does manage to pack up and leave before she gets her attack animation in, but Knights here getting shanked. I'm kind of just murdering the Empire Cav. Banshees don't really get punted around. Not entirely sure if that's intentional or what the case may be there, but you can see they're shanking that Cav, doing some good damage. I do finally get some summons off on this artillery. You can see the Hammer of Witches and Great Cannon run off by Graveguard, as well as the Spearmen just swarming all over. Over here, Karen Wraiths do buckle the Empire Spears with a little help from Isabella, who's diving in there, providing extra leadership deals and some rear charges. Now, the Demigryph Knights, the Royal of Griffites are doing what they can, but they're not really going to be ideal against Karen Wraiths. Wraiths are really designed to counter AP high armor units like Royal of Griffites, and they will drag these guys into the muck. And we are going to cast some zombies here. This is going to force the Griffites to stand and fight, and they're really not going to stand a chance. You can see the Karen Wraiths, they're just going at them, and yeah, with that 75% resist and the 44 weapon strength on the Karen Wraith, they're going to be chunking these Demigryphs very, very quickly, especially when they've got no healing to prop them up. So, yes, the Demigryphs are fighting as best they can here, doing their utmost. There's some Empire Knights diving in to help. Of course, Terror isn't going to work on these guys, but they're so low on HP now. The Banshees are still in perfect shape. They're sweeping back in now. Slippery popped on both of them just to close the gap a little faster. Isabella's actually going to dive in, looking to poke these guys down. And the Banshees are actually going to dive in and look to get a bit of damage. And we can see there the Royal Griffites do get wrecked. And it's going to be a Pyrrhic victory for Vampire Counts. Now, I must say that the last time I played Isabella and the Banshees, I was not super impressed in this matchup. I felt that it was a build where I could have run Vargulfs and gotten the same results. However, in this matchup, to be fair, if I'd run Vargulfs, maybe the results would have been the same, just with a very different composition and different panning out of the battle. But the Banshees did insane work. The kill count doesn't show it. 22 kills overall is, well, pretty pitiful. But keep in mind, almost all those kills were against Demigryphs. They murderized Wolfheart. They murderized the Jade Wizard. 3 of my opponent's key units just got annihilated by these Banshees. They did huge amounts of work for how cheap they are. These ladies are 850 with just Slippery. Without that, they're even cheaper. I believe they're like 800 or 750. So they're dirt cheap without it. And you don't necessarily need Slippery. It's just something I wanted for the extra move speed so I could keep up with Blood Knights, keep up with the Cav contingent a little bit better if I needed to. But they did a great work there. They were killing those Demigryph Knights. You're almost always going to see Demigryphs in this matchup, and for that, Banshees are excellent at shutting them down. And Isabella, of course, is great for offsetting any burst damage your opponent might put on you. If your opponent puts a Fireball into your Banshee, boom, you can heal that entire thing up with a single cast of Blood Chalice. Hell, 2 casts of Fireball can be offset by Blood Chalice. And Isabella also she's a decent combatant, and you can use that Gaze of Nagash. I didn't really use it here to chunk down the wizard. I used it to chunk down Wolfheart, but it is a very potent spell, and if your opponent goes with, say, Fire Magic to get Flaming Sword of Ruin, you can use it to chunk down their caster quickly. And maybe in this situation I should have chunked down the Jade Wizard. I'm not entirely sure, but the results on Marcus were pretty potent regardless. And Gaze of Nagash is a spell that gets overlooked generally because Invocation, Van Hale's Dance Macabre, and of course Summons are so popular, but it is still a very potent single target spell. Besides that, well, the Blood Knights got screwed hard because I mismicroed. I didn't shut down the cannons like I should have, so huge misplay there. Same with the Direwolves, really. Graveguard performed excellently, just chewing their way through the Empire chaff. That's all you really expect of them. Same with the Karen Wraiths. And then the Karen Wraiths did well against the Demigryphs, which is really outstanding. Spears, so they're chaff, they're trash. You don't expect too much from them. Now for my opponent's build, I do think the choice of Wolfheart is a little iffy against Vampire Counts. I probably wouldn't recommend it. I guess if you're trying to go for a Lord Snipe, it's an okay choice. But when you don't have huge amounts of super melty damage where they can take advantage of with a net, which this doesn't have. Cannons do a lot of damage in a burst, but then they have such a long reload that their overall DPS is pretty terrible. Cannons' damage output is just bad. And in the 10 seconds you got a unit netted, like 2 units of handguns would probably do more damage than 2 units of cannons against a single flying entity like, say, Isabella. The other problem I think there was that Wolfheart started Vanguarded. That allowed Isabella to get a very cheeky Gaze of Nagash on him. It allowed her to get some chip damage in with melee, and that to set him back a bit. Besides that, personally, I just don't think, and this might just be a thing from my play style, but I'm not a huge fan of bringing cannons against Vampire Counts. I think trying to defend a backline is just super risky. It's difficult. They're going to drop summons on you. I wasn't even on top of my summons in this matchup. Better players than me would obviously drop Vampire zombie summons or even skeleton summons on your great cannons much sooner, murderize that crew, and you'd be in deep trouble. Whereas here, I was doing some cheeky cav play, was supporting those with summons, thus I didn't have summons for artillery, so a bit of a misplay there. Spearman held rather well. I do like the cav play, or cav choices here. I do just think a little bit of magic damage is needed, or perhaps some sort of buffs, like a warrior priest or something can help. But you probably want some source of magic damage, or focus out the Banshees very hard with your magic damage. But for that, you're probably better with, say, Lord of Fire. You could even bring just a Lord of Firecaster with a Fireball. or Flaming Sword of Ruin or something. I think that could be better. But that's just my 2 cents there. Well played to JJ2 here. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, enjoyed some Banshee play, watching them shank some demigryphs. As usual, if you have your own comments, thoughts, opinions, be sure to leave those down below, and I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and we'll leave you all in the next one. We'll see you all in the next one. Over and out.